What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. I would like to personally talk about a specific deck list that I completely 100% love with every fiber of my being on the game known as Eternal. This deck list is forever known as Chainbrei. Alright guys, so as I was saying before, this deck is known as Chainbrei. It's actually one of my top most favorited decks on this game. So it is a two-color deck. It is what is known as Time and Justice. It is Combrei colors, as they call it in the Eternal card game. But the whole deck is built around this one specific card called Martyr's Chains. So at the end of your turn, double the power and health of your units. Empower, kill an enemy unit. So Empower is an ability that states that does something when you play a power card. Your power cards are how you play the game. It's these sigils. You have to get a certain amount of influence or mana or whatever you want to call it in order to cast any of these spells or units. So basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to get to Martyr's Chains as quickly as possible so that you can be able to get all of your units massively big and then just swing face. That's literally all you're doing. But you also have this kind of like side plan to where that like you can use Martyr's Chains in order to kill off your opponent's pesky units that you don't want to have to deal with by using its second ability to get more influence and putting it onto the battlefield so that you'll be able to gain your influence and then trigger the Empower ability and then kill off your opponent's units. So the cards that we have in here, we have exactly 32 units. We have a 4 of Initiate of Sands plus 1 maximum power, so you get an extra boost to your influence. Devotee of Sands, which also does the same thing as Initiate of Sands, but it's a 1/3 for 2, and it has an ability called Shift. Shift is when played, you may instead pay the shift cost. Shifted units can't attack, block, or be selected until what they call emerge, which means that they like suddenly appear out of thin air as if they were invisible and then just poof, they're there. But you can shift the unit or you can just outright play the unit. Most of the time I shift the unit just so that I don't have to deal with my opponent trying to target it with a kill spell. And it will allow me to boost my maximum influence up while at the same time protecting my unit for about 3 turns. So we have Aurelian Merchant, which also boosts our maximum power, but the merchants have a special ability that when you summon them, you can choose a card in your hand and swap it out for a card in your market, which I'll get to the market here in a little bit, but basically think of it as like a sideboard for now. So Tocas, or as I like to call him, Taco, Tocas Waystone Harvester. So the enemy player can't play spells directly on their units. So if they have a deck that consists of trying to pump up their units to make them bigger, like a what they call like a fast spell, like a trick play, they can't do that now as long as he's on the board. He also raises your maximum power by 1, just like all the other ones we just saw. But you can also pay 2 and twist Tocas to increase the maximum power by an additional 1. Twisting means that you can give this unit a +1/-1 counter to gain its effect. So you do get a downside to this, but you also get an upside. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, basically. Winchest Merchant is the green merchant. It does not give you a boost to your maximum power, but it does have flying, and it is a 2/2. And instead of swapping out for a time card or white, you're swapping out for a green card, okay? Next we have Marshal Ironthorn, and all of these are 4-ofs, by the way. Marshal Ironthorn has an Empower ability just like Martyr's Chains, but whenever you play a Sigil and its Empower triggers off, you get to play an additional copy of that exact power you played. So for example, let's say that I played a copy of Combrei Banner. So basically what his ability would do is he would copy Combrei Banner as if you're playing two of them instead of one of them, and you get even more influence added than you normally would with just adding the one. But he also has a special ability called Ultimate. It can only be used once. You pay 15 to kill all enemy units. So it's a one-sided board wipe that basically just makes it to where that you can literally finish the game off just with that ability. So it's usually something that I wait until the very last minute to do. So most of the time I don't actually play this until I'm getting ready to either go into Martyr's Chains and then do a double empower move, or I sometimes do play it early game if I'm getting to where that I'm feeling like I need to get quicker onto getting chains, because if I'm playing up against aggro will outrace you every time. So Marshal Ironthorn helps with that situation, to where that if they're aggroing you out and you need that extra influence to get a Martyr's Chains as quickly as possible, then that's when you would do the early play. Otherwise, most of the time you would do this into mid-late game so that you can do the one-sided board wipe and then just swing all out like it's nobody's business. Next one is Minotaur Ambassador. So when you summon him, you get to play a Time Sigil and a Justice Sigil from your deck. It's a 6-drop. It requires Time and Justice in order to cast it. It's a 3/5, so it's really good on the health portion, so you can block against like a pesky unit you don't want to have to deal with, and just continue to block until you get to the point that you need to get to. And last but not least, Telut, Queen's Hand. So this is a 7-drop, 6/6 unit that when you attack with the enemy player with a single unit, one unit, you play a +3/+3 weapon on that unit that it's attacking. Also, you get to play 2 Justice Sigils from your deck, depleted, and enemy units get -1 attack. But the biggest thing on this is not actually the +3/+3 or the -1, although those do help a lot. It's the fact that when you swing with a single unit, you get to get 2 regular Justice Sigils from your deck and play them as if like they came straight from your hand. And you get to play them for free, which triggers off the Empower abilities, right? So if you have Marshal Ironthorn on board and then you play Telut Queen's Hand and then swing with Marshal, then you trigger off Telut's ability. Then you get 2 Justice Sigils. Marshal Ironthorn triggers. You get the Empower ability. So instead of 2, you get 4. It's completely insane. So in one turn, you get 4 additional power just by playing this guy and swinging with a unit. And as long as Marshal is on board. Or you can go even this route, where that you play Telut, you swing with a unit, and then when Martyr's Chains is on board and you activate the Empower ability, instead of killing just one unit, you kill 2, because you get 2 Justice Sigils, so you get to target 2 of your opponent's units and just outright kill them, and could potentially swing for lethal. So that's the whole point of that. Now we're going to go into the attachments. So we've already talked about Martyr's Chain, so I'm not going to go into that. But Power Stone, it's a 2-drop relic that increases your maximum power by 1. And then we're going to talk about the spells. So I have a 4 of Reclaim. You draw 2 Justice Sigils from your deck, but if you attack with a unit before you play this spell, you activate Onslaught, which allows you to play them from your deck instead of just drawing them from your deck. So this is basically a ramp spell to help you out and get to where you need to be a lot quicker. Then you've also got a 3 of the Great Parliament. Great Parliament states that when you play, you can play a 4/4 owl with flying for every 4 maximum power you have. So every time you go up 4, so let's say you have 8 maximum influence before you play this. So you get 2 owls because you have 8 influence in your pool. So for every 4 influence you have, you get an additional owl, and it just keeps building up, building up, building up until you get to insane numbers, and you can just fill your entire board, even after you get board wiped. But there is a reason that it is a 3 of instead of a 4 of in the main deck, and I'll go over that here in a minute once we get to the market. So the power, I have 29 power in the deck. That's usually not where you like a little more than normal. The reason for that, the higher number, is because of the fact that you're trying to trigger off the empower abilities, and that way you can also ramp a lot quicker into the Martyr's chains. So that's the reason why that there's 29. Normally it's going to be around 26 to 27 influence for a normal deck, but because of the state of what you're trying to do with this deck, you want to have a little extra oomph on the influence and power. So I have 7 time sigils, 7 justice sigils. I have 3 Combrei banners, 3 Combrei insignia, 4 Combrei insignia, 4 Crest of Progress, and 4 Seed of Progress. So basically, it's mostly the double color stuff, with a little bit of splash of the single color, just so that you can get the where's it at? Seed of Progress to go off, and just in case you also need that little extra, you know, maybe that 1-drop spell like Initiate of Sands. Sometimes you can't get the 1-drops from these. Like, for example, like if you had Combrei Banner in your hand and you didn't have any of these other ones, but you had a Time Sigil in your hand, you could still play the Time Sigil and play off the Initiate of Sands. Okay, so now we're going to go lastly into the market. Market, like I stated before, is basically like a sideboard like you would see like in Magic the Gathering. So your market can only consist of 5 cards, and there's very strict rules as to how you can go about your market. So if you have a merchant in your deck, you can go and add extras of a particular card, like Great Parliament, into your deck. But if you have what's called a smuggler, you can't add that extra card into your market because of the special rule that states that you can't do that. So just keep in mind, the reason that there's merchants in here is so that you can have multiples of cards that are in your main deck. So let's start off with the first one, Disjunction. Draw an attachment from your void or kill an enemy attachment. So this is to get rid of those pesky relics that, like, if you're playing up against like a mirror deck, then Disjunction is specifically for that. But you can also use it to draw into Martyr's Chains on turn 2. So if you have the potential to play this early on, you can use Disjunction to go and search for the chains, and then that way you'll have it in your hand. Your 4th Great Parliament is in your market, so that way that if they board wipe and then they also potentially do something to get rid of all of your Great Parliaments in your main deck, Royal Decree is one of those. So if they Royal Decree your Great Parliament and turn Great Parliament into Seek Power, that way that you can't use Great Parliament anymore, you have that extra one in your market just in case. Alright? Sword of Unity is only used basically for the second ability. So you have Lifesteal, Overwhelm, and Spellcraft 2. It is a weapon, so basically you equip it to one of your units whenever you cast it. But you mostly use Sword of Unity for its second ability, so Spellcraft 2. So Spellcraft, when you cast the weapon, you can pay an additional 2 to play another spell, whatever spell is equipped to that weapon, or whatever it is you're casting. So in this case, you're playing a spell called, you play Stand Together. Stand Together states that your units get +1/+1 and have Aegis. Aegis protects all of your units from one enemy spell or effect. So if they try to board wipe you, you get protected for that turn, and they can't do anything about it, right? So it just protects your units so that they can't be targeted or board wiped for a turn. right? So that's basically what Sword of Unity is for. Hit is basically an additional win con. So if you can't get to where you're casting Martyr's Chains because you're, whatever reason, you're running short on Justice Sigils, but you have a way to cast Pit so that you can get a bunch of Sandworm tokens, then that would be the route you would want to go. So go and get this only if you can't cast Martyr's Chains effectively, right? So you get this. Every time you do, you play a sigil, you trigger off the end power, and then you get to play 2 7/7 Sandworms exhausted. So it's a token producer. But you also gain life whenever your enemy's units die. So you get 2 life every time an enemy unit dies. Last but not least, we have a 4th Martyr's Chains. So it's basically the same concept as Great Parliament. If they somehow get rid of your win con in the deck, Martyr's Chains, and make it to where you can't cast it from your main deck, you have that extra one in your market so that you will not feel like, you know, you're not going to be able to win the game. So that way that you can go and grab it with the win chest merchant and then be able to play it, and you should be okay. So you have 2 different options, Pit or Martyr's Chains in the market. Well, that's it, guys. That's the complete deck list. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below into on this YouTube video. If you guys want to see any other deck lists, also let me know in the comments down below. I will be more than happy to go in and try to either build the deck, or if I already have the deck list, I'll go ahead and show it off here. But feel free to subscribe to the channel and for more content later on. That way you guys will be able to see whenever I post a video live, and also hit that notification bell as well. And I will definitely be posting more videos next week, more deck lists for you guys to go and check out. Hopefully that this will be beneficial to you, and if that way that you can up your game and hopefully get pretty good at the rank setting. But anyway, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out. Have a great rest of your evening, and